The great sage Maitreya continued. Thus the king, who became unintelligent due to his sinful life and deviation from the right path, became actually bereft of all good fortune. He could not accept the requests of the great sages, which the sages put before him with great respect, and therefore he was condemned. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The demons certainly cannot have any faith in the words of authorities. In fact, they are always disrespectful to authorities. They manufacture their own religious principles and disobey great personalities like Vyasa, Narada, and even the supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna. As soon as one disobeys authority, he immediately becomes very sinful and loses his good fortune. The king was so puffed up and impudent that he dared disrespect the great saintly personalities, and this brought him ruination. Hardy Bull. 630. My dear Vidura, all good fortune unto you. The foolish king, who thought himself very learned, thus insulted the great sages, and the sages, being broken-hearted by the king's words, became very angry at him. This is going to be a big problem here. Text 31. All the great saintly sages immediately cried, "Kill him! Kill him! He is the most dreadful, sinful person. If he lives, he will certainly turn the whole world into ashes in no time." Wow. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Saintly persons are generally very kind to all kinds of living entities, but they are not unhappy when a serpent or a scorpion is killed. That means it's a double negative, so it cancels out, and it means they are happy. If it says they are not unhappy, so in other words, that means they are happy when a serpent or a scorpion is killed. It is not good for saintly persons to kill, but they are encouraged to kill demons who are exactly like serpents and scorpions. Therefore, all the saintly sages decided to kill King Vena, who was so dreadful and dangerous to human society. We can appreciate the extent to which the saintly sages actually controlled the king. If the king or government becomes demonic, it is the duty of a saintly person to upset the government and replace it with a deserving person who follows the orders and instructions of saintly persons. Well, I wish that was functioning today. Maybe there's some examples today where saintly persons can get rid of bad government.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually a mass revolt that gets it done, but the mass revolt always has leaders. So what did you say?
But in today's world, not that many saintly people are, and also probably they're not.
Mhm. Text 32. The saintly sages continued. This impious, impudent man does not deserve to sit on the throne at all. He is so shameless that he even dared insult the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu. Well, Well, let's see. People did revolt against Saddam Hussein. They tried to kill Hitler, uh, and also, many times great demons who are ruling the country. There's always attempts to kill them, assassinate them. So it's not something rare. Purport to text 32. One should not at any time tolerate blasphemy, this is the purport, and insults against Lord Vishnu or his devotees. Yeah, very good. A devotee is generally very humble and meek, and he's reluctant to pick a quarrel with anyone, nor does he envy anyone. However, a pure devotee immediately becomes fiery with anger when he sees that Lord Vishnu or his devotee is insulted. This is the duty of a devotee, although a devotee maintains an attitude of meekness and gentleness. It is a great fault on his part if he remains silent when the Lord or his devotee is blasphemed. Mm, that should be understood. It is a great fault on his part if he remains silent when the Lord or his devotee is blasphemed. Text 33. But for King Vena, who is simply inauspicious, who would blaspheme the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by whose mercy one is awarded all kinds of fortune and opulence? Okay, so King Vena is a bad person. He is not respectful toward great personalities. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. When human society individually or collectively becomes godless and blasphemes the authority of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is certainly destined for urination.
Ruination.
What?
Ruination.
Yeah, ruination. Yeah. Such a civilization invites all kinds of bad fortune due to not appreciating the mercy of the Lord. Wow. Text 34. The great sages, thus manifesting their covert anger, meaning their hidden anger, immediately decided to kill the king. King Vena was already as good as dead due to his blasphemy against the Supreme Personality of God. Thus, without using any weapons, the sages killed King Vena simply by high sounding words. Whoa, I wonder what those high sounding words are. Text 35. After all the sages returned to their respective hermitages, the mother of King Vena, Suniti, became very much aggrieved because of her son's death. She decided to preceive the dead body of her son by application of certain ingredients and by chanting mantras, or rather, mantra yogena. I think she's going to uh, use the mantras and those certain ingredients to uh, make a living entity come out of the body of King Vena. Let's see. Once upon a time, the saintly persons, after taking their bath in the river Saraswati, began to perform their daily duties by offering oblations into the sacrificial fires. After this, sitting on a bank of the river, they began to talk about the transcendental person and his pastimes. That's nice. In those days, there were various disturbances in the country that were creating a panic in society. Therefore, all the sages began to talk amongst themselves. Since the king is dead and there is no protector in the world, misfortune may befall the people in general on account of rogues and thieves. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Whenever there is a disturbance in the state or a panic situation, the property and lives of the citizens become unsafe. This is caused by the uprising of various thieves and rogues. As such, a time, as such a time, it is to be understood that the ruler or government is dead. All of these misfortunes happened due to the death of King Vena. Thus, the saintly persons became very anxious for the safety of the people in general. The conclusion is that even though saintly persons have no business in political affairs, they are always compassionate upon the people in general. Thus, even though they are always aloof from society out of mercy and compassion, they consider how the citizens can peacefully execute their rituals and follow the rules and regulations of Varnashram Dharma. That was the concern of these sages. In this age of Kali, everything is disturbed. Therefore, saintly persons should take to the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra as recommended in the Shastras. Harinama, Harinama, Harinama eva kevalam. Kalo nasteva, nasteva, nasteva gatiranyata. Both for spiritual and material prosperity, everyone should devotedly chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Well, what is it saying here? It's saying in this verse, in this purport, in this age of Kali, everything is disturbed. Therefore, saintly persons should take to the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra as recommended in the Shastras, both for spiritual and material prosperity. Everyone should devotedly chant the Hare Krishna mantra. So it's not recommending here to get involved in political affairs. Let me make sure it says, thus the saintly persons became very anxious for the safety of the people in general. The conclusion is that even though saintly persons have no business in political affairs, they are always compassionate upon the people in general. Thus, even though they are always aloof from society, out of mercy and compassion, they consider how the citizens can peacefully execute their rituals and follow the rules and regulations of Varnashram Dharma. That was the concern of these sages in this age of Kali. Everything is disturbed. Therefore, saintly persons should take to the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra as recommended in the Shastras. Harinama, Harinama, Harinama eva kevalam, kalo nasteva, nasteva, nasteva gatiranyata. Both for spiritual and material prosperity, everyone should devotedly chant the Hare Krishna mantra. So it doesn't sound like the people who are harassed by demons should take up arms and try and kill them. It sounds like they should chant Hare Krishna and depend on the mercy of Krishna. It says, thus, even though these are sages, uh, are always compassionate upon the people in general. Thus, even though they're always aloof from society, out of mercy and compassion, they consider how the citizens can peacefully execute their rituals and follow the rules and regulations of Varnashram Dharma. That was the concern of these sages. In this age of Kali, everything is disturbed. Therefore, saintly persons should take to the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra as recommended in the Shastras. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama. Hare Nameva Kevalam Kalo Nasteva 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 Kataranyata. Both for spiritual and material prosperity, everyone should devotedly chant the Hare Krishna mantra. So it doesn't say there should be uh, a revolution where you kill the bad guys, but it does recommend chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Okay. Now we know what to do. When the great sages were carrying on the discussions in this way, they saw a dust storm arising from all directions. This storm was caused by the running of thieves and rogues who were engaged in plundering the citizens. Wow. Purport. Thieves and rogues simply await some political upset in order to take the opportunity to plunder the people in general. Oh, that's true. To keep thieves and rogues inactive in their profession, a strong government is always required. Ah, okay. So that means you don't just chant Hare Krishna. You have people who are parts of the government with guns and weapons to get rid of the bad guys. But let's see. Upon seeing the dust storm, the saintly persons could understand that there were a great deal of irregularities due to the death of King Vena. Without government, the state was devoid of law and order, and consequently, there was a great uprising of murderous thieves and rogues who were plundering the riches of the people in general. Although the great sages could subdue the disturbance by their powers, just as they could kill the king, they considered it improper on their part to do so. Thus, they did not attempt to stop the disturbance. Mm. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The saintly persons and great sages killed King Vena out of emergency, but they did not choose to take part in the government in order to subdue the uprising of thieves and rogues, which took place after the death of King Vena. It is not the duty of the brahmanas and saintly persons to kill, although they may sometimes do so in the case of an emergency. They could kill all the thieves and rogues by the prowess of their mantras, but they thought it the duty of Kshatriya kings to do so. Thus, they reluctantly did not take part in the killing business. Text 41. The great sages began to think that although a Brahmana is peaceful and impartial because he is equal to everyone, it is still not his duty to neglect poor humans. By such neglect, a Brahmana's spiritual power diminishes, just as water kept in a cracked pot leaks out. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Brahmanas, the topmost section of the human society, are mostly devotees, and they are generally unaware of the happenings within the material world because they're always busy in their activities for spiritual advancement. Nonetheless, when there is a calamity in human society, they cannot remain impartial. If they do not do something to relieve the distressed condition of human society, it is said that due to such neglect, their spiritual knowledge diminishes. Almost all the sages go to the Himalayas for their personal benefit. But Prahlad Maharaj said that he did not want liberation alone. He decided to wait until he was able to deliver all the fallen souls of the world. In their elevated condition, the Brahmanas are called Vaishnavas. There are two types of Brahmanas, namely Brahmana Pandita and Brahmana Vaishnava. A qualified Brahmana is naturally very learned, but when his learning is advanced in understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he becomes a Brahmana Vaishnava. That's very interesting. Yeah, many times I had to write a letter to authorities for uh, on the part of devotees. And I always used to say, I am a Brahmana Vaishnava.
Mm.
Yeah, in the letter. Now, they might not know what it means, but I would always identify myself as a Brahmana Vaishnava.
Mhm. Yeah, one is just has probably knowledge, no realization.
Yeah, they
Mhm.
can just be a Brahmana, but a Brahmana Vaishnava, that means that it's much more serious.
Mm.
In their elevated condition, the Brahmanas are called Vaishnavas. There are two types of Brahmanas, namely Brahmana Pandita and Brahmana Vaishnava. A qualified Brahmana is naturally very learned, but when his learning is advanced in understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he becomes a Brahmana Vaishnava. Unless one becomes a Vaishnava, one's perfection of Brahminical culture is incomplete. The saintly persons considered very wisely that although King Vena was very sinful, he was born in a family descending from Dhruva Maharaja. Therefore, the semen in the family must be protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Keshava. As such, the sages wanted to take some steps to relieve the situation. For want of a king, everything was being disturbed and turned topsy turvy. Well, Vaishnavas, they killed Vena, who was the king. Now they had another problem. And there was the society was uh, being overrun with so many uh, dacoits and sinful people. So, because there is no king. Okay, so let's see what they do. And they mention here, therefore, the semen in the family must be protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Keshava. As such, the sages wanted to take some steps to relieve the situation. For want of a king, everything was being disturbed and turned topsy turvy. Yeah, if you don't have a good king, everything becomes topsy turvy. Text 42. The sages decided that the descendants of the family of the saintly king Anga should not be stopped, for in this family the semen was very powerful, and the children were prone to become devotees of the Lord. Okay. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The purity of hereditary succession is called Amoga Virya. The pious seminal succession in the twice born families of the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas, especially, as well as in the families of Vaishyas also, must be kept very pure by the observation of the purificatory processes, beginning with Garbhadana Samskara, which is observed before conceiving a child. Unless this purificatory process is strictly observed, especially by the Brahmanas, the family descendants become impure, and gradually sinful activities become visible in the family. Maharaja Anga was very pure because of the purification of semen in the family of Maharaja Dhruva. However, his semen became contaminated in association with his wife Sunita, who happened to be the daughter of death personified. Because of this polluted semen, King Vena was produced. This was a catastrophe in the family of Dhruva Maharaja. All the saintly persons and sages considered this point, and they decided to take action in this matter as described in the following verses. See, it's very interesting. He's talking about the uh, the uh, 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 the corruption of the semen.
It sounds like eugenics.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. uh, it says uh, that the sages decided that the descendants of the family of the saintly king Anga should not be stopped. For in this family, the semen was very powerful, and the children were prone to become devotees of the Lord. Well, how does semen become very powerful? By not wasting it. It becomes very weak when people engage in illicit sex all the time. But it becomes very powerful when people do not drop semen. Rather, when there is powerful semen, the semen can go up the column of the uh, backbones and go up to the brain and make the brain very powerful. That's what the yogis know how to do. Also, by maintaining uh, celebrity, uh, uh, maintaining
Celibacy.
celibacy, the same thing can happen naturally. Instead of wasting semen, you don't waste it at all, and gradually it can go up your back. Uh, uh,
Spinal
what do you call it?
spinal column.
Yeah, and reach the brain, and then you become very intelligent, and uh, you are capable of doing wonderful things. Okay, text 42. The sages decided that the descendants of the family of the saintly king, Anga, should not be stopped. For in this family, the semen was very powerful, and the children were prone to become devotees of the Lord. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The purity of hereditary succession is called Amoga Virya. The pious seminal succession in the twice born families of the Brahmanas. Twice born, twice born means first birth is seminal, second birth is becoming initiated in Krishna consciousness. So, as well as in the families of vices also, must be kept very pure by the observation of the purificatory processes beginning with Garbhodana Samskara. What is Garbhodana Samskara? Before having sex, one has to, today, it is to chant at least 60 rounds of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra before the husband and wife try to have a child. And both have to chant. The Garbhodana Samskara was a type of, let's say, ritual activity that husband and wife have to go through. But today, the equivalent of it is that the husband and wife have to chant around 16 rounds, 60 rounds before they try to have a child. Unless this purificatory process is strictly observed, especially by the Brahmanas, the family descendants become impure, and gradually sinful activities become visible in the family. Uh, Maharaj Anga was very pure because of the purification of semen in the family of Maharaj Dhruva. However, his semen became contaminated in association with his wife, Sunita, who happened to be the daughter of death personified. Whoa. Because of this polluted semen, King Vena was produced. Let's see. Yeah. So Maharaj Anga was very pure because of the purification of semen in the family of Maharaj Dhruva. However, his semen became contaminated in association with his wife, Sunita, who happened to be the daughter of death personified. Because of this polluted semen, King Vena was produced. This was a catastrophe in the family of Dhruva Maharaj. All the saintly persons and sages considered this point, and they decided to take action in this matter as described in the following verses. Okay, so what is the major takeaway here? When people engage in a lot of illicit sex and the men waste their semen, then not only they get weak, but there's havoc in society. So the ability to preserve semen, then one becomes much more intelligent because the semen can rise up to the brain and make it very fertile and very powerful. This is understood by the yogis. It's not understood by people today. They don't teach this in sex education in schools. They talk about, using condoms and things like that in sex education. They're not talking about how you can preserve your semen and raise it up to your brain. Okay, so it says this Garbhadan samskara, which is observed before conceiving a child, unless this purificatory process is strictly followed, especially by the Brahmanas, the family descendants become impure and gradually sinful activities become visible in the family. So today, we don't perform the Garbhadan Samskara, but the equivalent of it is chanting 60 rounds before you try to have a child. Yeah.
It's 51.
Huh?
I think it's 50.
Or 50 rounds, okay.
Yeah, last time I was trying to look for the reference. I think, but yeah, last time I think somewhere we saw some reference to 50 rounds.
Uh-huh.
But I was just
I said
looking.
60 so that you're absolutely sure that your semen becomes purified.
Exactly. I think we should make it 64, Maharaj.
Yeah.
So that it's a 16 multiple.
Yeah, why not? Maharaj Anga was very pure because of the purification of semen in the family of Maharaj Dhruva. However, his semen became contaminated in association with his wife, Sunita, who happened to be the daughter of death personified. Because of this polluted semen, King Vena was produced. This was a catastrophe in the family of Dhruva Maharaja. All the saintly persons and sages considered this point, and they decided to take action in this matter, as described in the following verses. Okay, so the following verse, beginning of the following verse is text 43. After making a decision, the saintly persons and sages churned the thighs of the dead body of King Vena with great force and according to a specific method. Of course, it's not explained what that specific method is. As a result of this churning, a dwarf-like person was born from King Vena's body. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. That a person was born by churning of the thighs of King Vena proves that the spirit soul is individual and separate from the body. The great sages and saintly persons could beget another person from the body of the dead King Vena, but it was not possible for them to bring King Vena back to life. King Vena was gone, and certainly he had taken another body. The saintly persons and sages were only concerned with the body of Vena because it was a result of the seminal succession in the family of Maharaj Dhruva. Consequently, the ingredients by which another body could be produced were there in the body of King Vena, even though he's dead. By a certain process, of course, they don't explain what it is. When the thighs of the dead body were churned, another body came out. Although dead, the body of King Vena was preserved by drugs. They don't say what the drugs are. And mantras. They don't say what those mantras are. And mantras chanted by King Vena's mother. In this way, the ingredients for the production of another body were there. When the body of the person named Bahuka came out of the dead body of King Vena, it was really not very astonishing. It was simply a question of knowing how to do it. Wow, that's very good. From the semen of one body, another body is produced, and the life symptoms are visible due to the soul's taking shelter of this body. One should not think that it was impossible for another body to come out of the dead body of Maharaj Vena. This was performed by the skillful action of the sages. Wow. That is very interesting. Very, very interesting. That the sages could produce a living body from the dead body. And Prabhupada says it was simply a question of knowing how to do it. Well, that's a big question. It's simply a question of knowing how to do it. From the semen of one body, another body is produced, and the life symptoms are visible due to the soul's taking shelter of this body. One should not think that it was impossible for another body to come out of the dead body of Maharaja Vena. This was performed by the skillful action of the sages. Well, so King Vena is dead, but by some process, another body is produced. In other words, they don't need a woman to create another living entity. They can do it simply from the dead body of King Vena. Very interesting. Okay, so text 44. This person born from King Vena's thighs was named Bahuka, and his complexion was as black as a crow's. Wow. All the limbs of his body were very short. His arms and legs were short, and his jaws were large. His nose was flat. His eyes were reddish, and his hair copper colored. Well, that sounds like some of the people you see in downtown Seattle. They look like that. Just imagine. Text 45. He was very submissive and meek, and immediately after his birth, he bowed down and inquired, Sirs, what shall I do? The great sages replied, Please sit down. Nisita. Thus, Nisita, the father of Naishada, race, was born. Okay. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is said in the Shastras that the head of the body represents the Brahmanas, the arms represent the Kshatriyas, the abdomen represents the Vaishyas, and the legs, beginning with the thighs, represent the Sudras. The Sudras are sometimes called black or Krishna. The Brahmanas are called Sukla or white, and the Kshatriyas and the Vaishyas are a mixture of black and white. However, those who are extraordinarily white are said to have skin produced out of white leprosy. Whoa. I remember one time I was standing waiting for a trolley, and a bus full of black kids came by, and they started shouting out from the window that I had leprosy, and that's why I was white. Yeah. Okay. It may be concluded that white or golden hue is the color of the higher class, and black is the complexion of the Sudras. After this, Nisada's birth, he immediately took charge of all the resultant actions of King Vena's sinful activities. As such, this Nisada class are always engaged in sinful activities like stealing, plundering, and hunting. Well, there's a lot of hunters today. You can consider them to be nisadas or naisadas. Consequently, they are only allowed to live in the hills and forests. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The naisadas are not allowed to live in cities and towns because they are also sinful. We should, however, know that even these sinful men.
No, I think we skipped one line.
What?
I think we skipped one line.
Yeah. As such, their bodies are very ugly, and their occupations are also sinful. We should, however, know that even these sinful men, who are sometimes called kiratas, can be delivered from their sinful condition to the topmost Vaishnava platform by the mercy of a pure devotee. Engagement in the transcendental loving devotional service of the Lord can make anyone, however, engagement in the transcendental loving devotional service of the Lord can make anyone, okay, meaning that anyone can become saintly. However, can make anyone, however sinful he may be, fit to return home back to Godhead. One has only to become free from all contamination by the process of devotional service. In this way, everyone can become fit to return home back to Godhead. This is confirmed by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita 9:32. Mam hi parthavya yapisyu papayuniya striya vaishas tata sudras tipi antiparam gatim. O son of Prita, those who take shelter of me, though they may be of lower birth, women, vaishyas, or merchants, as well as sudras, workers, can approach the supreme destination. A lot of women get, not a lot of women, but some women get insulted when they hear a verse like this, because it specifically says, although they be of lower birth, women, vaishyas, who are usually men, they're always men, they're merchants, as well as sudras, workers, they're also men, can approach the supreme destination. So it's not specific. When it says women, it means fallen women, not all women, but fallen women. Okay, that's end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the fourth canto, 14th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Story of King Bena. And see, this is very important. So sometimes, you have women who are feminists, when they hear a sentence like this, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, merchants who are men, as well as Sudras who are usually men, can approach the supreme destination. So women get who don't like to listen carefully, they get really insulted, and they give up Krishna consciousness because they think that Krishna consciousness is prejudicial toward women. But it's not the fact that when it says women, in these type of sentences, those women are considered fallen women. That's why they should always put fallen women. That way, women today would not get so insulted, right? But they think it refers to all women because there's nothing there because the word fallen is not there. So they think it's all women that's being referred to. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the fourth canto, 14th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Story of King Vena. So this verse, Mamhi Partavya Pasritaya Yepi Su Papayonaha Striya Vaisas Tata Sudras Tepi Antiparam Gatim. O son of Prita, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, merchants who are men, as well as Sudras, workers, can approach the supreme destination. So this is not a pejorative statement. Pejorative, well, look that word up, pejorative. It's not a pejorative statement toward women. It just says that women and merchants who are men and Sudras who are men, they can all attain the supreme destination. That's all it says. It doesn't say that all women are fallen. It says that whoever is of lower birth, if they become engaged in devotional service, they can approach the supreme destination. Why? Because they take shelter of Krishna. What does it say?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, it says the greater number. The greater number of something is the majority.
Yeah, that's true, but that's not what we're looking up, right?
Pejorative.
No, see, you made a mistake. It's not. Okay, go ahead. You read the correct word. Say the word first.
Pejorative.
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 What is it saying?
Expressing contempt or disapproval.
Yeah, that's the correct. You mispronounced the words.
Pejorative.
Yeah, pejorative. That means there's what you would call a type of considering people to be low class. It's a negative word, pejorative. It's a negative word. But here it's saying, and this is why you have to read not only verses but purports also. But here it's saying it's a verse. Mam hi parta vipasritya yepisu papriyonoya. Strio vaishas tatasu drastipi antiparam gatem. Bhagavad Gita 9th chapter 32nd verse, which is often misinterpreted by many women. O son of Prita, those who take shelter of me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, or merchants, as well as Sudras, can approach the supreme destination. Well, because of feminism, whenever there's the word just women without any adjective going with it, people think that whatever is being said concerns all women as a class. That's not a fact. Though they be of lower birth, so when it says women, it is referring to low class women. This is what's not being, explicitly said, and that's why feminists, when they hear just women, they get really upset. They think they're talking about all women. But no, it's fallen women, not all women, right? And what's a fallen woman? A prostitute is a fallen woman, and women that have abortions, that's a fallen woman. It's not all women, right? But that's why they should always use the word fallen women and not just women, because women think, oh, well, that means all women. So that means the Hare Krishnas are really mean because they're condemning all women. But no, it's not all women. It's only sinful women. Okay. Chapter 15. Oh, no, I think we're out of time. Okay. Well, we'll just read the first verse in chapter 15. King Pritu's appearance and coronation. The great sage Maitreya continued, my dear Vidura, thus the Brahmanas and the great sages again churned the two arms of King Vena's dead body. As a result, a male and female couple came out of his arms. Well, just look at this. King Vena is dead, right? But the Brahmanas knew how to churn the body of a dead person and get living new people out of the body. It's amazing, isn't it? Not just one or two people, but as many people as they want, they can do it. The great sages churned the two arms. Now, before they were churning the legs, now they're churning the arms of King Vena's dead body. As a result, a male and female couple came out of his body. Now, this is an amazing statement. I mean, you have a dead body. Let's say you go to a wake. A wake means, there's a dead body and it's the last time you'll be able to see it. And everybody's crying, and so forth. That's a wake. But if a Brahmana comes that's bona fide, he could churn the body of the dead body right? He could churn the dead body and produce living entities from it. You can just see how powerful Brahmanas were in the past. So they're churning the body of King Vena. So they and in different parts of the body. So in this uh, 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 in this verse, it's saying that the Brahmanas and the great sages again churn the two arms of King Vena's dead body. First, they were churning the legs. Now they're churning the arms. And as a result, a male and female couple came out of his arms. Wow. That's real Brahminical power. They can do things like that. The great sages were highly learned in Vedic knowledge. When they saw the male and female born of the arms of Vena's body, they were very pleased, for they could understand that the couple was an expansion of a plenary portion of Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The method adopted by the great sages and scholars who were learned in Vedic knowledge was perfect. They removed all the reactions of King Vena's sinful activities by seeing that King Vena first gave birth to Bahuka, described in the previous chapter. After King Vena's body was thus purified, Bahuka was like a demon. After King Vena's body was thus purified, a male and female came out of it, and the great sages could understand that this was an expansion of Lord Vishnu. Wow, you get an expansion of Lord Vishnu from the dead body. Amazing. This expansion, of course, was not Vishnu Tattva, but a specifically empowered expansion of Lord Vishnu known as Avesha. Wow, amazing. This expansion, of course, was not Vishnu Tattva, but a specifically empowered expansion of Lord Vishnu known as Avesha. Okay. All right, now we're going to, we'll read one more verse, text 3. The great sages said, the male is a plenary expansion of the power of Lord Vishnu, who maintains the entire universe, and the female is a plenary expansion of the goddess of fortune, who is never separated from the Lord. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The significance of the goddess of fortunes never being separated from the Lord is clearly mentioned herein. People in the material world are very fond of the goddess of fortune, and they want her favor in the form of riches. They should know, however, that the goddess of fortune is inseparable from Lord Vishnu. Materialists should understand that the goddess of fortune should be worshipped along with Lord Vishnu, and should not be regarded separately. Materialists seeking the favor of the goddess of fortune must worship Lord Vishnu and Lakshmi together to maintain material opulence. If a materialist follows the policy of Ravana, who wants to separate Sita from Lord Ramachandra, the process of separation will vanquish him, make him, let's say, a failure. Those who are very rich and have taken favor of the goddess of fortune in this world, must engage their money in the service of the Lord. In this way, they can continue their opulent position without disturbance. So, worshiping the goddess of fortune, independent of her husband, will become a negative thing, and you will not get the result that you want. So, the goddess of fortune should always be worshipped with her husband. But you see today, and many Hindus will worship Lakshmi Devi independent of her husband. It's not very good. That's what Ravana did. He wanted to separate. This is Prabhupada says, this is the policy of Ravana, who wanted to separate Sita from Lord Ramachandra. The process of separation will vanquish, meaning defeat him. Those who are very rich and have taken favor of the goddess of fortune in this world must engage the money in the service of the Lord. In this way, they can continue in their opulent position without disturbance. Well, in other words, basically it's saying you should never worship the goddess of fortune individually. She should always be with her husband, Lord Krishna. Okay, well, we read text 4. Text 4 says, of the two, the male will be able to expand his reputation throughout the world. His name will be Prithu. Indeed, he will be the first among kings. Purport to Srila Prabhupada. There are different types of incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Shastras, it is said that Garuda, the carrier of Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva and Ananta are all very powerful incarnations of the Brahman feature of the Lord. Similarly, Sachipati, or Indra, the king of heaven, is an incarnation of the lusty feature of the Lord. Aniruddha is an incarnation of the Lord's mind. Similarly, King Prithu is an incarnation of the ruling force of the Lord. Thus, the saintly persons and great sages predicted the future activities of King Prithu, who was already explained as a partial incarnation of the plenary expansion of the Lord. Wow. Okay, we're going to stop there. Are there any questions anyone would like to ask? Any questions or comments?
Maharaj,
Hare Krishna.
I have one question. So, when this class you said that the dark complexion is lower class and like the golden and yellow complexion is higher class. But how can you say that when it comes to like Krishna or Rama or Draupadi? So
Okay, well, let's see.
This is verse 45, Maharaj.
Yeah.
The last two lines.
He was very submissive and meek, and immediately after his birth, he bowed down and inquired, Sirs, what shall I do? The great sages replied, Please sit down. Thus, Nisada, the father of the Nisada race, was born. Okay, so who are the Nisadas? The Sudras are sometimes called black or Krishna. The Brahmanas are called Sukla or white, and the Kshatriyas and Vaishyas are a mixture of black and white. However, those who are extraordinarily white are said to have skin produced out of white leprosy. It may be concluded that white or golden hue is the color of the higher class, and black is the complexion of the Sudras. Is that what you're referring to, Mataji?
Prabhuji, but yes, Maharaj.
Yeah, Prabhuji. Well, uh, well, Prabhupada initiated a lot of black devotees. So it doesn't, even though they might be considered to be lower class, but they are equal to white class people. Uh, there are a lot of white class people, very low class, right? So it doesn't really matter so much what color you are. It matters if you are Krishna conscious or not. So that's the way we should look at it. You know, a black person, a yellow person, a white person, they can all surrender to Krishna through the process of initiation by a bona fide guru and overcome their physical and mental deficiencies. So just because someone is black doesn't mean they can't be Krishna conscious. But it says
So
here, it may be concluded that white or a golden hue is the color of the higher class, and black is the complexion of the Sudras. Yeah, what is your question again?
my question was that if black complexion is like, so Krishna and Rama and Draupadi and Vishnu, they're all dark complexion. So we cannot we cannot come to a conclusion. It's impossible to come to a conclusion that a black people or like darker people of color are like um they are Sudras. Because Krishna and Rama is definitely not a Sudra.
Are you saying Rama is black colored?
Not black color, I'm just saying like dark complexion.
Yeah. Anyway, we shouldn't worry about the color of the person because the color is not uh, important. What's important is, are they a devotee or not a devotee? That's that will determine who they are.
So
They,
it's
they can
just
be black, they can be white, they can be yellow, they can be any color they want. But if they are devotees, then they're considered devotees, pure devotees. Yes, go ahead.
like a horoscope scenario where like if you if the horoscope or the astrologer says that you can't marry, then you can't marry if you're a materialist. So it's like that. But if you're devotee, then it doesn't matter. You consider.
Yes, yeah, that's a fact. It doesn't matter whether you're white or black. It doesn't matter if you're Sutish or the astronomer says don't get married to this woman. If the woman and the man are both determined to be Krishna conscious, then they overcome those inherited qualities. Yeah, I mean, Prabhupada did not uh, force devotees to go to an astronomer and ask the Satish or the person to do uh, a uh, what do you call that? Um, to determine whether he was or she was qualified to be a devotee. Prabhupada accepted everyone, but maintained that they have to follow the regulative principles of Krishna consciousness. And if you do that, you know, in other words, chant 16 rounds every day of the Hare Krishna mantra, eat only Krishna prasadam, associate with genuine devotees, and go on Sankirtan, and it doesn't matter what color of skin that you have. You are a Vaishnava. You're transcendental to Brahmanas. because you're always engaged in the process of worshiping Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna is very dark skinned. And does that mean he's a lower class person? No. So we shouldn't be so interested in the color of the skin. We should be interested in what that person is doing. If they're chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and following the regulative principles of Krishna consciousness, then they're a devotee. Prabhupada accepted black devotees, African devotees, and black devotees from the United States. He didn't say, "Oh, your color is black; you cannot be initiated by me." No, he accepted them all because he knew it's not the color of the skin that counts; it's the activity of the person that determines who they are. So, if the person is always engaged in Krishna conscious activities, the color of the skin has no influence on him or her. However, if one is not engaged in devotional service, but is engaged in sense gratification, whether they're white, black, yellow, or whatever color they are, they're not qualified to be devotees. But they can be qualified if they accept a bona fide spiritual master and follow all the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness. And that's why it says here, Mami Partha Vipasritya Yepi Su Papayunaya Striya Vaishnas Tata Sudras Tepiyanti Param Gatim. O son of Prita, those who take shelter of me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, or merchants, as well as Sudras, workers, can approach the supreme destination. That means that even though they might have a lower birth, if they become devotees, they can go back to Godhead. So that's an important verse. Okay. Any other questions?
One question, Maharaj. Dhanwad Pranam. So, in the previous chapter, it was mentioned that Vena's mother was the daughter of death personified. Does it mean that she was the daughter of Yamaraj or some other personality? Because Yamaraj is like one of the Mahajans and a great devotee.
Yeah, that is implying Yamaraj. Who's death personified as Yamaraj?
But we also learned that Yamaraj is one of the Mahajans and he is a great devotee of the Lord. So, uh, like, uh, it was unfortunate, like the daughter of Yamaraj marrying was not auspicious for Anga.
Well, no, I don't see any problem there. What is the problem? You tell me. What's the problem? That she didn't marry the right person?
No, like it was mentioned that Vena was not a nice person because his mother was the daughter of death personified, but she was daughter of Yamaraj, who is a great Mahajan. So is it because of her mother that he was not a nice king? Was little bit like I didn't understand quite well.
Well, the main point is anyone who takes shelter of a bona fide devotee can be purified. It doesn't matter, who their father or mother is. It doesn't matter what family they're born in. Therefore, our Prabhupada was accepting all kinds of people in Krishna consciousness as long as they followed the regulative principles of Krishna consciousness. So he didn't say, "Oh, you're black, so you can't join our movement," or "You're yellow, you can't join our movement." That was never a criterion for Prabhupada. As long as they're willing to follow the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness, no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, no intoxication, and always chanting Hare Krishna. So in the case of Srila Prabhupada in the present, world, he was not considering the color of the person. He was considering if they followed the regulative principles, which you have to promise when you get initiated. Prabhupada would always say, "Okay, what are the regulative principles? No meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, no intoxication, and always chanting Hare Krishna and always cooperating with devotees to push forward the Hare Krishna movement." So that was the criterion that Prabhupada was looking for. He didn't care whether you're black or white or yellow or green or whatever. He wanted to know if you were ready to surrender and engage in devotional service. Okay, any other questions or comments?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
As you mentioned earlier that the low birth of the woman here mentioned about the women who are fallen. So my question is this applied to everywhere where the lower birth of the woman is mentioned? Everywhere in the scriptures, in Gita, in Bhagavatam, there's so many places where woman birth is mentioned as a low birth. So your explanation that low birth here mentioned only to the women who are fallen. So is that explanation applied to everywhere?
I mean, when it says women are lower class, is that referring to all women? Is that your question?
No, my question is like wherever in the scripture it is mentioned that birth of the woman is lower class. So can we assume it is mentioned for the women who are fallen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Okay, thank you very much, my dear devotees. Please chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And always hear Bhagavad Gita spoken by genuine devotees and ask questions to remove any doubts. And above all, take prasadam to your full satisfaction and always engage in devotional service. Then all the questions will be answered, all the problems will go away, and you'll be very happy, and you'll make other people happy also. Happiness is an infectious disease, but a good disease. Haribol. Thank you very much. Yes.
One question, Maharaj.
Yes.
In text 32,
Okay.
in the middle of the purport,
Yeah.
it says, however,
Yes, go ahead.
however, a pure devotee immediately becomes fiery with anger when he sees the Lord, Vishnu, or his devotees insulted. This is the duty of a devotee.
Okay, it says a devotee is generally very humble and meek, and he is reluctant to pick a quarrel with anyone, nor does he envy anyone. However, a pure devotee immediately becomes fiery with anger. Is this what you're talking about?
Yes.
Fiery with anger when he sees that the Lord Vishnu or his devotee is insulted. This is the duty of a devotee. Although a devotee maintains an attitude of meekness and gentleness, it is a great fault on his part if he remains silent when the Lord or his devotee is blasphemed. And what is your question?
My question is this allowed only for a pure devotee? Because line says, however, a pure devotee. So if neophyte is practicing, so it's not for the neophyte to become angry when he sees this. Is it?
Well, it's not a question of becoming envy. It's a question of become fiery and angry.
Angry, yes.
Yeah.
So neophyte should not even attempt to do this, becomes fiery and with anger. Is it like it says, however, a pure devotee immediately becomes fiery with anger?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's correct.
So my question is like, because neophyte level, there are a lot of contamination of thoughts as well.
Yeah.
So neophyte should avoid all these things. Is that the right understanding for this statement?
Well, if a neophyte devotee is, let's say, educated, he can understand if someone insults Krishna or bona fide devotees, he should become fiery and angry and correct that person if he can. If he can't, then he can remain silent. But if he has the ability to convince that person not to use, let's say, denigrating words or insults of pure devotees, if he doesn't have the physical, the mental, let's say, strength to recognize that this is a great aparad, and this person should be told that you're not doing the right thing, right? If he doesn't have the ability to do that, then I guess he remains silent. But if he understands, look, this is a serious aparad, insulting a devotee, or maybe violently hitting a devotee or something like that. Therefore, he feels obligated to stop that type of sinful activity. So it depends. Although devotees are usually humble and meek and reluctant to pick an argument with anyone, nor does he envy anyone. However, a pure devotee immediately becomes fiery with anger when he sees that Lord Vishnu or his devotee is insulted. This is the duty of a devotee. Although a devotee maintains an attitude of meekness and gentleness, it is a great fault on his part if he remains silent when the Lord or his devotee is blasphemed. There you go. Pretty clear.
Thank you.
So it's our duty. And if we remain silent, that means it's a great fault. Hare Krishna. Okay, my dear devotees, any other questions or comments? So we will stop here. Canto 4, chapter 14.
No, these were the questions from the previous verses.
Yeah.
So we covered till 4 Canto 15th chapter, next chapter, 15.4.
15.
We covered till 15.4.
Oh, 15.4. Okay, got it. Canto 4, chapter 15, text 4.
Yes.
Okay, my dear devotees, have a very good day. Chant Hare Krishna and be happy. And avoid the association of bad people. The way you can recognize a devotee is that he or she does not associate with unholy people. That's the way to recognize a devotee. They avoid the association of unholy people.